Welcome back to another episode of the Radio Psychs, your premier podcast for insights into everything mental health. I'm Dr. Aaron Haddock.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Yu. We're psychologists who care about people and bringing science to practice.
And we're so glad to have you join us.
Please note that the information shared in this episode is solely intended for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical or mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment.
Today's topic is the psychology of successful relationships.
So Aaron, let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered why some relationships feel effortless while other relationships can leave you feeling, completely drained?
Oh, absolutely. Relationships, whether with family, friends, or romantic partners, are so central to our happiness and well-being. But let's face it, they can also be a source of heartache and frustration.
It's true. And it makes you wonder, why do some relationships thrive while others struggle or even fall apart?
Right. Is it chemistry, communication, or is there something deeper going on?
That's the big question we're tackling today. We'll explore what psychology reveals about building successful relationships.
Which is not to say relationships simply fit into a formula. Every relationship is as unique as the people in them.
That's right. But behavioral research in the field of relationship science have uncovered patterns that predict relationship success, which can help us navigate relationships better and make them stronger.
Definitely. And some of these findings might challenge what you think you know about relationships. All right, let's get into it, Rondi. What does the research say about what makes relationships succeed?
While it may seem a little hard to believe, it comes down to two key ingredients: the personalities of the people involved and the dynamics of how they interact.
Okay, let's start with personality. How does who we are shape how our relationships play out?
The short answer? A lot.
Okay, I'll bite. What makes someone naturally better at relationships?
Well, it might sound a little harsh, but some people are better partners because of their personality traits.
Oh, like what?
Research points to traits like being agreeable, easygoing, trusting, and generous. These folks tend to have more satisfying relationships. On the other hand, people who are disagreeable, hostile, suspicious, or selfish often face more challenges.
It makes sense. And honestly, it feels pretty obvious when you think about it.
And there's one personality trait that can really wreak havoc on relationships:
Oh, what's that?
neuroticism.
Yeah, I can see that. People who are high in neuroticism tend to be more emotionally reactive and experience more negative emotions like anxiety, anger, sadness.
Exactly. They're also more likely to see everyday situations as threatening or stressful, which can lead to overreacting.
And that kind of emotional volatility can definitely put a strain on a relationship.
Totally. Neuroticism is like a double whammy for relationships. It not only contributes to personal unhappiness, but also spills over into the relationship, creating more conflict and dissatisfaction.
But it's not just about a person's personality, right? It's also about how two people's personality traits fit or don't fit together.
That's right. While we may say opposites attract, the research shows that's usually not the case for long-term relationships.
Makes sense. While we might not want a partner who's exactly like us, being complete opposites can make it tough to get along and find common ground.
True, but there is one big exception:
Oh, what's that?
dominant and submissive dynamics. When one person prefers taking charge and the other is more comfortable following their lead, it can actually create a surprisingly harmonious balance.
So compatibility and personality clearly matters. But how compatible do partners really need to be? I mean, isn't that the holy grail of dating apps? Matching people with partners who are most like them?
Yeah, dating apps have done an amazing job of tapping into something called homophily.
Homophily? What's that?
Well, it's our natural tendency to be drawn to people who are similar to us. Honestly, it's a bit egotistical. We tend to find those who share our traits more appealing because they reflect ourselves back to us.
Now that's an interesting paradox. Dating apps make it easier than ever to find like-minded partners, but survey research shows that over half of people feel their dating lives aren't going well. and that it's hard to find someone to date.
So this brings us back to your question about how much compatibility is enough. What the research shows is that a certain amount of compatibility definitely helps the relationship thrive.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's hard to imagine spending a lot of time with someone you don't get along with or don't share much in common with.
Exactly. But here's the twist. When it comes to personality, it's not just about similarity. It's also about complementarity.
Complementarity? I know what you mean, but I'm pretty sure that's the first time I've ever heard anyone actually say that word out loud.
Okay, fair enough. It's definitely academic speak, but it means that over 50 years of research on happy couples shows that their personalities tend to balance each other out. They complement one another.
You know, when I think about happy relationships, my own included, I see this complementarity in action all the time. Take introversion and extroversion, for example. In my own relationship, I'm more introverted and my partner's more extroverted. But it's like we balance each other out. We help stretch and round each other in ways we couldn't on our own.
Oh, absolutely. There's actually some interesting research on this. We tend to enjoy and feel warmer toward people whose personalities differ from, but complement our own. A certain amount of difference can be really attractive.
Yeah, variety is the spice of life, right? Speaking of which, have you heard about the research on how humans can actually smell genetic differences?
Wait, what?
I know, it sounds wild, but there's evidence that we're subconsciously attracted to people whose genes differ from ours. Scientists think our sense of smell can detect these differences, and get this, we're drawn to them because it could lead to healthier offspring.
How does that even work?
It's tied to something called the major histocompatibility complex, or MHC. When two people have different MHC genes, their kids are more likely to have a stronger immune system.
And we pick up on this through smell?
Yeah, exactly. One study published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B Biological Sciences found that women preferred the scent of men whose MHC genes were most different from their own, just by smelling their shirts.
Man, that's so interesting and a little weird.
I know.
Okay, we're running out of time, so let's pick up next time with the other major factor in relationship success: how dynamics of the relationship itself shape satisfaction and longevity.
Sounds good. As we wrap up, I think one key takeaway is that our personalities play such a big role in our relationships. It's worth paying attention to this dynamic.
Yeah, you might take some time to reflect on your own personality. We've touched on 2 of the big 5 personality traits today: neuroticism and extroversion. The other 3 are agreeableness, openness, and conscientiousness. You know, we should do a whole episode on the big 5 sometime.
Oh, for sure. And don't stop with yourself. Think about your partner's personality or even a close friend, family member, or colleague. How do your personalities interact and shape your relationship?
And here's a tip. Try to see personality differences in the most positive light. That friend who's always dragging you out to parties, their enthusiasm might actually be what helps you step out of your comfort zone. And maybe that's one of the reasons you like them.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Radio Psychs. We hope this one was as complimentary as your best relationships.
If you have questions or thoughts on today's episode, we'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe. Take care and be well, everybody.
Take care and be well.